right. Thanks everybody for joining us today for another Konveyor community meetup. We've got a great topic today with Anthony speaking. So with that, we'll just dive right in. Before we jump in, just want to again mention if you are not subscribed, you want to go to www.konveyor.io, click on forum and click on join. That'll join you to the Google group where we send these meetup invites out to. Sometimes occasionally we're hitting the other mailing lists inside of Red Hat and some other groups, but really if you want to stay connected, that's where to go. We'd invite you to email the group if you have questions on specific topics that you'd like to see talked about. We'd love to hear that. And of course, check out all the tooling that's being developed up there between upstream collaboration right now between IBM, Red Hat, and hopefully others soon as well. So with that, I will turn it over. There's a Q&A section. Please use that. There'll be a couple of polls we put out during this as well. And then there'll be a survey at the end that we ask you to take just to help us understand feedback-wise if the topics that were discussed were impactful and useful. We appreciate you joining today. And with that, I will turn it over to today's speaker. Anthony, take it away.
Hey, thanks, James. Hey, my name is Anthony Green. I'm going to talk a bit today about migrating workloads from OpenStack to OpenShift virtualization or KubeVirt. First, a bit about me. In about 3 weeks, I'll hit my 25th anniversary here at Red Hat, which is an amazingly long amount of time. But yes, I'm a longtime Red Hat employee. Over those 25 years, I've had a number of different roles across engineering services like professional services, business affairs, and sales. But these days, I'm a solutions architect based in Toronto, where I work with Canadian banks, help them, adopt open source solutions from Red Hat. Although I haven't been programming professionally for many, many years, I'm a bit of an armchair engineer. A few of the things I've done, I'm the author of and current maintainer still of libffi for decades now. libffi, if you're not aware of it, it's a key component used in many language implementations like Python, Ruby, and so forth. I'm the occasional committer to the GNU toolchain, the compilers and debuggers, and I even play around with. I created my own open source CPU with the full toolchain and simulators and implementations. But I'm here to talk a bit about this OpenStack to OpenShift migration. So really, in discussions with a colleague. Talking about someone who had a sizable OpenStack environment that they were kind of considering legacy at this point for whatever reason. They're trying to find a new home for those virtual machines. And the question was, geez, would OpenShift virtualization be, or KubeVirt be, a reasonable place to host these VMs? Based on the mix of workload and the kinds and how they were using OpenStack, it did seem that OpenShift was going to be a good fit for those VMs. Well, how would we get those VMs over to the OpenShift environment? I think if you look around, there's some tooling that is maturing very quickly around migrations from VMware and other virtualization environments, but things are lagging a little bit on the OpenStack to OpenShift virtualization front. And whenever you have these kinds of conversations with people, of course, they want to see, show me a VM that goes from OpenStack to OpenShift. Without that tooling, though, it's not. It was difficult to quickly come up with something. No one had anything in their back pocket, so I thought, geez, how hard could this be? Really, we're going to do something very simple, right, to show that this is technically possible. So this is a simple picture I have in my environment here in OpenStack. Environment on my left here, there's a VM running in OpenStack. That's my laptop in the middle. I've got OpenShift running KubeVirt on the right-hand side. And I've approached this in a very naive way, right? All I want to do is I want to take that app VM over there, generate an image from it that I can download into my laptop, and then simply upload that image into OpenShift, reconstitute it as a VM, and voila, you're all done. That kind of glosses over lots of things. Here I'm really just talking about the disk image itself, not so much the additional metadata that would be wrapped around that VM. There's no, so for instance, the number of cores, the amount of memory, the NICs, things like that. The nice thing about OpenStack, most OpenStack environments, and this one in particular, is that the tenants in that environment tend to be fairly regular. People got used to the idea of using t-shirt-sized VMs in OpenStack, so you might have 3 or 4 or 5 different sizes of VMs. So there's lots of regularity that would make a more sophisticated tool to migrate OpenStack to OpenShift very easy. But for this proof of concept demo, just to show that, yes, it's actually very easy to take an image out of OpenStack Shift, we're ignoring all that. We're making some assumptions. So, I am by no means an OpenStack expert. I can find my way around OpenShift for sure. So I did a little bit of learning around OpenStack. There are lots of command line tools, and what I learned was, yes, the CLI tools are there. They're easy to use. It's very easy to script up a very simple migration from one environment to the other, and that's what I'm going to show. There were 7 steps to making this happen, and then I wrapped that with a little simple GUI and came up with a nice little demo. But when you think about the 7 simple steps to migrate your workloads, the first thing you need to do is identify the OpenStack volumes associated with the VMs. And so my script simply runs the OpenStack server list to get the list of servers, which also identifies attached volumes. I spit it out in a JSON format to make it easier to parse in the tool. And then once I've identified the volume, you create a snapshot of that volume. The snapshot is essentially just an image of that volume at a point of time. I should mention that, of course, the VM should be shut down. We need to quiesce the VM. There's actually no easy way to quiesce, as I understand, so we just shut down the VM and create this snapshot from the volume. From that snapshot, we create another volume very easily using the OpenStack command again. From the volume, then we create an image. And now we're creating a QCOW2 image from the volume that is essentially a mirror of our VM. Then we simply download the QCOW image to the laptop. Remember, my laptop is in the middle of this picture. That's where all these commands are running, the tools running in that environment. So we download the image locally, and then simply upload it to OpenShift. So OpenShift, we provide a Virtcuddle tool to take the QCOW image, upload it into OpenShift, and it gets copied onto a persistent volume. Here we're specifying the size. Again, this is simply just hard-coded, but if you were to enhance this tool to make something a little more sophisticated, you simply look at the metadata that OpenStack would provide and create a PV of the appropriate size during your upload. And finally, we create our VM. So now my VM.yaml is a simple Kubernetes YAML file describing the VM. So that would really have all that metadata that you would need to pull out of OpenStack, the memory size, NICs, all those kinds of things that aren't on the disk image, number of cores. In this tool, we simply start with a template of a VM and fill in the blanks, and then feed that to OpenShift, and it goes ahead and creates the VM from that image based on the PV. So, like I said, I took these 7 steps. I wrote a little script around them. It's all there in GitHub for you to look at, and we'll try running through it right now. Let me go to so everyone can see. I tried to increase the font here, but actually let me give a quick tour of my environment. This is my OpenStack environment. Got 1 instance running. Click on this guy, console. Xerox image just to make this demo go much faster. So I'm going to log in. There we go. Just to customize this disk image so we know it was put over to the OpenStack environment. I'm just going to make a file here. We have a very simple file in our VM, and I'm going to shut this guy down now in preparation for the migration. Now this is my OpenShift environment. They're all running, everything is running here as KubeVirt VMs on a single host, but it seems sufficient for the purposes of this demo. Here are my VMs. I have no VMs running here right now. Let me make sure this is shut down. Okay, we're all shut off. Everything's good to go. So I'm going to run this tool. I'm going to go through those 7 steps I identified. First, it's talking to OpenStack, looking for VMs. I only have one VM here. I'm going to select it. If there were multiple VMs, you could select the ones you wanted to migrate, and it would migrate them one at a time. So yeah, fingers crossed. Let me start this process off. So it found the volume for the VM. It's creating the snapshot from that volume. Now it's creating the volume from the snapshot to make that mirror volume. Now it's creating an image, a QCOW2 image from that volume. Seconds. Now it's downloading the image from the OpenStack environment. It's uploading it to OpenShift. You can see this all happens pretty quickly. Now, this is a small image, but even so, it's pretty good. There we go. So now it created that YAML file to feed to OpenShift. It created the OpenShift VM. Now it's cleaning up those images and volumes that it created on OpenStack grade objects. So let us go into our OpenShift environment, and here I now have a running VM. Right? Let's give it an IP. I can pop into it. Click on the console. Here it's booting up. Fantastic. Let's give it a second. Guess while we're just waiting for this to boot up, what I learned during this process was that because it's so easy to move these images from one environment to another, if I really were to take on the job of migrating a large number of VMs from OpenStack to OpenShift or KubeVirt, I would probably not be too intimidated to code up a custom migration tool. Just some scripts. Like I said, there's lots of regularity in most OpenStack environments that would make it easy to move en masse VMs from one environment to the other. So, oops, gotta click on this guy. And there we go. There's my hello text file. So it's the same VM. Now it's running on the OpenShift environment. So that was really all I came to talk about. I wanted to show how easy it was to move VM images from one environment to another very simply. Again, this is not a production tool by any means, but you could easily imagine it evolving to one. Of course, I wrote it in Lisp, so that kind of prevents most people from taking that step. But it's very simple. It's maybe 150 lines of code to do all of this. And I encourage you to have a look. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. This is a great, short and sweet demo. I think a really cool tool you put together. Just one quick note: there is a survey linked in the chat. If you can open up that Google form and fill in that survey, it would be greatly appreciated to get some feedback for Anthony taking the time to present today. Looking through, I think since we just to let you know, we had 3 polls. One was around, are you or your OpenStack customers aware of KubeVirt? So it looks like the majority of people are somewhat aware. Some of them are very aware. Just a few that are not aware at all. Nobody yet testing it or running it in dev QE prod from that poll. The second poll was, which source platform do you want to see migration tools for KubeVirt built? VMware vSphere 67%, Rev 25%, Microsoft Hyper-V 8%. Nobody on the OpenStack side yet, but maybe that's because they're not yet to the point where they're testing or running it. And then the third, which is the best text editor, and Vim beat Emacs 9-1 there. So
they're wrong.
Sorry, guys.
But now you've just lost 9/10 of your audience there, Anthony. So Reese, Nano is not listed as one of the best editors. You're right. That's true. I knew this would. If only all polls could be this decisive, I think we could all safely say that at this point. With that, I think there is some question and answer here. So do you support live migrations or almost live migrations? And what is the outage time in the cold migrations?
Yeah, so no live migrations are not supported. I think if this was to be developed, or if someone should develop a comparable tool, I have a hard time imagining how you would do a live migration from one platform to the other. Now, you saw the migration time, the outage time for that very small VM. Quite honestly, I can't answer the question if it was a larger one, but it would be just on the order of a few minutes, I imagine. I don't think it would be very different from what you'd see in a VMware to OpenShift.
Yep, got it. Good. Can you persist private or floating IPs?
Yeah, so I think networking is an interesting conversation when it comes to this. I think that it should be possible, depending on your setups, to mirror in many ways the different networking setups across OpenStack and OpenShift. So there's no definitive answer. I think it's a case by case basis, but I think that there are definitely situations because both environments provide some form of SDN and private networking where it would be possible to persist those IPs.
Cool. And volume support. What types of volumes are supported?
So, are you talking about like a QCow image volume?
I'm assuming maybe they're saying that Cinder. What types of volumes in the OpenStack world? I'm guessing if it's exposed by a Cinder, that you support it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I imagine. I mean, there are great tools for. I can't answer that question. So quite honestly, I'm not an OpenStack expert, but I imagine that there are great tools for migrating volumes from any image to any image these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, if someone wants to reach out, I can dig into that.
Awesome. And then we did have a question. Red Hat has the IMS for migrating VMs from VMware to OpenStack or Rev. Why not include features like this on the same software suite? So I would invite you to email the email address I put up there, Konveyor.io at Google Groups. The engineering teams behind there and product management teams are subscribed to that, and I think they would love to kind of hear more about the demand for that and kind of the understanding. I know right now the migration that has been prioritized has been from VMware to OpenShift virtualization, and the poll that we even ran today that was not scientific by any means seems to indicate that is the place where most of the VMs are that want to move over. But I think there would certainly be interest in that. And then, is this part of a general overall trend to move customer workloads to OCP, or just to solve specific instances where customers no longer wish to run OpenStack? So I think Anthony's here was a specific customer that was looking to migrate some of their workloads from OpenStack to OpenShift. Certainly, we have a number of customers running OpenStack, and it's got a long roadmap and life cycle, especially in our telco customers. So this isn't to suggest that customers have to move to OpenShift virtualization from OpenStack. I think this is just an example of Anthony being in the field at Red Hat, working to build something that he wanted to share with those in case it's helpful. Anthony, I don't know if you have anything to add.
100%. That was accurate.
Cool. Awesome. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody who's attended and Anthony especially for presenting on this. If anybody has any topics that they'd like to present when they come across, or if you find something, send myself an email or even just go to the Konveyor forum and just drop a note on there and say, hey, I have a topic I'd like to discuss. We can get you scheduled up and we can get you a t-shirt. So with that, thanks everybody and have a great rest of your Monday.